Good morning, everyone. I'm George Christian with Wine Industry Network, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Wine Industry Network webinar series. This is our first episode. As you all know, our goal is to be the best business resource for the wine industry. And to that end, one of the things that we've done for a number of years is produce expert editorials where we basically feature experts from different segments of the industry, whether it's vineyard, production, sales and marketing, strategy and leadership. And given the current situation, we felt like this was the perfect time to launch essentially the video version of our expert editorials. Recently, we were really lucky. Susan DeMatei with WineGlass Marketing produced an article for us that talked about communicating in a crisis. And when we approached Susan to ask her if she would be willing to bring that article to life through a webinar like this, she said yes. And so we were so thrilled to have her. And Susan, thank you so much for being willing to work with us on launching this new webinar series.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to be the first speaker. It's really an honor.
Well, it was a great article and obviously written to help not only wineries deal with what we're going through right now, but also a lot of wine industry vendors. Nearly half of the audience today are industry vendors, people selling bottles and barrels and corks to our wineries who are struggling with the same thing. How do I still need to do business. We still need to operate. They still need what I have to offer, but how do I communicate with them? So anyway, we're super thrilled to have you, and I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll join you at the end. We'll take some questions.
Thanks a lot. All right, let's get at this. Hi, everybody. They told me there's about 250 or so of you out there. So for all the isolation we've had in the past few weeks, I'm really excited to be in a group. I'm loving all of these webinars. Wine Industry Network is our host, and today we're going to talk about messaging in this crazy new world that we're in. My name is Susan DeMatei. I started a company called WineGlass Marketing in 2011. We're the largest full-service direct marketing agency in the alcoholic beverage space. There's 18 of us. We handle both D2C and B2B clients. We offer a wide range of services, but our top 3 deliverables are website design, social media ads and content, and email marketing. So today I'm going to get all touchy-feely on you. We're going to talk about emotions. Emotions are a really powerful marketing tool. And as George said, they also transcend audiences, which is good because there's B2B and D2C people on this call. We're all people. We all have emotions. And that means that the emotions are probably the same if you're targeting end consumers in the D2C channel or if you're targeting a winery executive with B2B marketing. We're going to look at some research to give us insights into what our target markets might be feeling right now, and where you as a company might be able to fit in as a solution for them in all of this uncertainty. Which brings us to the question of the day. And this isn't really a new question. I've worked with literally hundreds of wineries at this point, and whenever we get down to mapping out tactics, we start listing out all the touch points. And it's typical for the person in charge of content to get overwhelmed really quickly. You know, you have to come up with engaging and unique things to say 3 to 4 times a week on each social channel, and then 2 to 4 emails. It's not a small task. Right now, the anxiety is even more compounded. You don't want to seem like you're using the pandemic as an excuse to reach out, but you still have to make your sales goals. So how do you walk this fine line? I'm suggesting that we all get emotional. Emotions are critical in marketing. A recent analysis of 1,400 ad case studies in the US showed that advertising with emotional content performs twice as well with only rational content. Now, why is that? It's because we all feel before we think. A researcher named Antonio Damaso actually wrote a book about this. He spent time studying individuals with damage to the frontal area of the brain where emotions are generated and processed. His subjects could function just like anybody else, but they couldn't make decisions. Even simple decisions about like what to eat are difficult. They could describe what they should be doing to eat, but without emotions, they were unable to make a choice on what to eat. This is also supported by data from Gerald Zaltman. He wrote a really good book I like called How Customers Think. And Zaltman found that 95% of our understanding happens beyond our conscious, rational brain. Instead, it comes from our subconscious, emotional brain. Because we know people make decisions based on emotions, in marketing, we talk a lot about the psychological triggers for those emotions to get potential customers to click, convert, engage, or react. So by leveraging common psychological triggers that we all have, you can drive more sales. But what are those common psychological triggers? To figure this out, let's start by looking at your triggers. What are your reasons for reaching out to your customer? Well, you need to make your sales goals. You have to move product. To be more specific, maybe it's an end of a vintage or you need to rotate in a new model number. You're bottling wine or you're switching inventory and you need the space. And another reason could be simply that you're looking at your marketing plan and there's a square that says you're supposed to send an email next week and you have no idea what to say. So looking at this list of needs, I don't know, I'd say a free shipping offer on last year's vintage sounds perfectly reasonable. But now let's look at your customers' reasons to open up an email from you. Maybe they miss you. So there's this castle that my husband and I stayed at in the Loire Valley, and we were there 9 years ago. I haven't been back to France since, but about once or twice a year, they send me an email, which I have no idea what it says because I don't speak French, but I always open it and I love getting it. And I look at all the pictures and it reminds me of my trip. We were there in the spring. It rained every day, which was kind of cool because everything was really lush and it smelled like flowers and violets and dirt and earth. I remember the French word for honey, miel, because there was this local honey that they made there and they would have it every day for breakfast. Can't believe I still remember miel. But all those memories come back and I smile and I'm happy. And that's what your emails can do. Remember that your customers a lot of the time took their time and money to go on vacation or a long process and they chose you. Of all the places and all the people to talk to in the world, they chose you. Another thing is your product can make them happy. Now, if you know me, you know I'm a huge nerd. My husband and I are into really weird things like bulldog rescue and Pueblo Indian pottery and high-end wooden puzzles. The email lists that I subscribe to are pretty weird. But wine is also a passion, and I live it every day. So in the midst of all of these wine emails I get, when I get one from a gallery in Santa Fe or from eBay about a puzzle I've been watching, I drop everything and I at least scan it if I can, because I'm excited. It's my hobby. I chose to be interested in it. And that's how wine is to them. This isn't their job. It's something that makes them happy. And then I just want to comment here on B2B marketers. So granted, your customers may not miss you, but I would argue that emails from a trusted partner can give us helpful bits of information and allow us to do our jobs better and remain employed. And remaining employed makes me happy. Maybe there's a calendar trigger, like a birthday, a graduation, a holiday. In B2B, it could be harvest. It could be a deadline or a budget cutoff for annual budgets. Or maybe there's no occasion, and this one's just for the consumers, but maybe they just want a nice bottle of wine on a random Tuesday night, and there's no other reason than they're looking for an affordable luxury. So now look at your customers' triggers for opening this email from you. And I want to point out that nowhere here on their motivation list is it likely that they opened your email because they were sitting around waiting to save money on wine. So why did everybody react to the pandemic with slashing prices? And what does that mean when we go back to the so-called normal? Do you think our customers are going to say, yeah, it's cool, you can charge me more now because your tasting room's open? Probably not. You've probably set the new bar for your wine value in their mind. Why this was a bad idea, in my opinion, is because it was a rational response to an emotional problem. Let me explain. In the wine industry, we don't typically analyze consumer psyches or emotions. We tend to think of our customers demographically, like 40s to 60s. They live in New York, Texas, and Florida. They have a household income over 150,000. We also think that they buy rationally. We got this score. It's from this vineyard. It was made by this winemaker. It has this percentage of malolactic fermentation. Sometimes they do. But overwhelming research tells us that in times of stress, like we're in right now, demographic segmentation is less relevant than psychographic segmentation that takes into account consumers' behavioral reactions and the underlying emotions that they're feeling at the time. This is because rational marketing is trying to sell something using a rational argument in an emotional time. Emotional marketing is trying to connect with people, to interact with them, and move them toward a desired effect. But connecting with people is very tricky. I remember very little about my college days in Boston because I was drunk a lot and it was a long time ago. But I do remember this one lecture in a communications theory class, and the premise was that words are meaningless, and what you say and what you write is meaningless. What gives meaning is entirely on the reception. The example that the professor gave was that if you see a coffee cup and you're hungover, it's salvation. To the waitress who gave it to you, it's her tip. To the dishwasher who now has to clean it because you've made it dirty, it's a nuisance. And to the German family sitting next to you that doesn't drink coffee or speak English, it's meaningless. So what's my point? My point is things and words don't mean anything in and of themselves. The only meaning that something can have is emotion or context. But the concept that what you mean is entirely out of your hands is really frustrating. But there's an easy way to bridge this gap and connect with your customers. You just put yourself in your customer's shoes. This may be your world right now. These are headlines from just last week. You're worried about your businesses, your employees, your family, your product. Again, a reaction of offering a sale on wine seems really logical here. This is what your consumers are absorbing. The coronavirus scares the hell out of us. The stay-at-home sanctions have created an undercurrent of fear, worry, and stress. People are looking for direction, for credibility, for stress relief, and distractions. Do you see how a 40% discount on wine doesn't really solve any of these issues? By understanding and appealing to their emotional needs, you have a much better chance of connecting with them and engaging them. Remarkably, the emotions that we need right now are already drive our need to share. A recent study analyzed the top 10,000 most shared articles on the web, and those articles were then mapped to emotions to see what emotions have the greatest influence on us. The most popular was awe at 25%, laughter at 17%, amusement at 15%, and joy at 14%. Conversely, the least popular is sadness with 1% of content. There was another study at Wharton that I found, and it dug deeper into shared content to find commonalities and better understand what makes content spread. It also found that happiness and humor were the two most common feelings that we want and we want to share with others. And yes, I would say humor can be very relevant in our current context. There's actually been a flurry of recent articles in advertising magazines recently about how viewers are getting really sick of the overly heartfelt ads expressing gratitude for our frontline workers and detailing how brands are giving back. I predict we'll see a shift in marketing from the stay-at-home messaging to go-forth messaging. One of my favorite campaigns is Budweiser took their infamous What's Up campaign and they updated it for the coronavirus. We're going to play it now, and if you have headphones on, you might want to turn the volume down because it might come out a little loud.
Hey.
Yo, my guy, what's up, man?
What's up with you?
Nothing, just rewatching some games, having a bud.
I'm always rewatching old games. What's up?
Oh, it's the GOAT.
What you doing, girl?
Nothing. Gave up on cooking, living off of snacks, having a bud.
True.
Yo,
What's up?
what's up?
What's up?
Hey,
Oh,
you nice.
Oh.
AOD, where's Gab?
Oh, she on kid duty. Hold on. Hey, yo, Gab.
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
For real though, what's up with everybody?
Yeah. You guys staying safe?
Hey, thanks for asking. The family's doing great. It's really nice to see you guys.
Good to hear it.
Awesome.
We have no complaints. It's crazy times, but we're good.
True. There we go.
That's what's up.
All right, I'm with that.
Absolutely. Nice to see you guys.
So, how do you know what your consumers need to hear right now? To guide us, I found an insightful study in the Harvard Business Review that looked at marketing successes and failures of dozens of companies during the recessions from the 1970s to 2009. So it was my thought that a recession would closely mimic the situation that we're in now, and I was looking at patterns during recessions to gain some insights for our clients. The review identified trends in consumer behavior and resulting company strategies that either helped these companies succeed or ultimately fail during a recession. The successful companies all better understood their target consumers and fine-tuned their strategies accordingly. Okay, so how do we in the wine industry alter our strategies to fit the current climate? Well, let's review the psychographical segments they uncovered. The Harvard article suggested that there were 4 key psychographical segments, and your strategic opportunities strongly depend on which one of the 4 segments your core consumers are in. Slam on the brakes are the people who feel most vulnerable and are financially the hardest hit. In a crisis, this group cuts all of their spending down to the bare necessities. Although lower income consumers typically fall into this segment, this can also include anxious, high income consumers. Pained but patient group is the largest of the 4 segments, and it represents the broadest income band. While they are also nervous, they're more resilient and they're confident about recovery and their ability to maintain their current standard of life. So in a crisis, they do economize, but less aggressively. Comfortably well-off consumers are secure about their ability to ride out both the current and future changes in the economy. Their consumption patterns will not change that much, with one exception. They tend to be more selective and less conspicuous about their purchases. And then the live for today segment. They carry on as usual. Typically urban and younger, they're more likely to rent than own, and they spend on experiences versus stuff. They're unlikely to change their everyday consumption behavior unless they become unemployed. Now remember, these are psychographic segmentations, not demographic. So you might look at these and see shadows of all of them in your database. But typically there is one dominant target group for all your products, or for each product. We actually have our own pandemic poll on this. I saw this in Lee Perdue's email last week. I thought it was really interesting. 3 of the top 5 considerations are emotional, but it also included 2 very rational reasons of the item was in stock and it offered promotions, discounts, or sales. So that got me thinking. There are also 4 categories of products. Essentials, necessary for survival. Treats, little indulgences whose immediate purchase you can justify. Postponables, wanted or needed items, but you can put it off. And then expendables, perceived as unnecessary and really hard to justify right now. Now, wine is a luxury item no matter which way you put it. We don't need wine to survive. But our products do fall into one of 4 prioritizations as well. Perhaps a well-rated Sancerre, maybe an everyday wine like Josh would be part of the essential bucket. And then that well-rated Sancerre from a mailing list would be considered a treat. You might want to put your club shipments on hold for a little bit. And it's likely going to be a while before you feel comfortable taking a trip to Napa on vacation again. So let's make this information useful by putting it in a grid. On the left-hand side, we have 4 types of consumers: slam on the brakes, pained but patient, comfortably well off, and live for today. Along the top, we have the 4 product groups: essentials, treats, postponables, and expendables. And each quadrant we've color-coded. Blue areas are likely to stay the same or even increase. Green shows a volatile market where things are changing and risky. And red is clearly a declining market that doesn't have a ton of options right now. To dive deeper, let's look at the slam on the brakes consumer. Now remember, these guys are the people who feel the most vulnerable and hardest hit. I can guarantee we all have some of these in our databases. If your wine or B2B product is a mainstream mass market everyday essential, then you are right on the money with your gut feeling that you need to discount. You pretty much have to put things on sale to get these guys to pull the trigger. But if your wine or B2B product is considered just above that, like an inexpensive treat, don't raise or discount your price, but market your most affordable product line. And also put a message out about them deserving a treat. If you have lots of clubs that are being canceled, maybe offer to put them on hold. Give them double points. Remind them how much they saved in club discounts last year. It's going to be a tough save. And if you feel most of your customers are in this category and you have higher value offerings like events or large formats, you're probably not going to sell a lot of those right now. So let's take a look at some of these strategies put into action. ModCloth here, they sent me an email that just flat out says, I deserve a pretty new dress. It acknowledges that life is difficult right now, but I can celebrate myself and get 25% off. And yes, this is a sale, but it's consistent with my expectations of this brand. It isn't anything the store doesn't offer on any given Tuesday. So they're sticking to their brand promise, and they're just telling me it's okay if I splurge on a dress. Domaine Serene took a different tactic. My club shipments there, it's the only club I belong to, are really expensive. So they called me last week, and I'm cynical, and I work in the wine industry, and I thought it was an outbound call. And I said, okay, what are your offers? And the woman said, well, we don't have any offers. We're actually just calling to make sure you're okay and to remind you that you have a whole bunch of points that you haven't used. And if you want wine right now, it'd be a really good time to use the points. And then she followed up with an email that kind of detailed out how many points I had. I was kind of blown away. I mean, we all love points. We hate to lose points. I don't want to lose my points. So yeah, I'm staying in the club. Now let's look at the other consumers and look at the pained but patient. Remember that this group is a broad income range and they're cautious but optimistic. This group looks better. It only has 1 red quadrant. For them, they're going to be piling up on the staples like toilet paper, flour, and $9 Sauvignon Blanc. For a slightly more extravagant purchase of treats or postponables, they're still going to buy if the barriers are low. So this is where your shipping offers might come into play. The other opportunity here is to reiterate and relate to them and be the brand that they know and they have known, and don't change on them. Keep your club model the same. Don't offer steep discounts that seem out of context with what you'd normally do. These consumers are trying like heck to have a normal life. Keep it simple and be the trusted brand that they know. As for the high-end purchases, there's nothing wrong with reminding them that there are better days ahead with a harvest party this fall or a cruise next spring. So here's a great example of that kind of messaging. Honig not only knows the role they play in their customers' lives, but they also took a step back and they put themselves in their customers' shoes of being stuck at home and making dinner out of things that you have around the house. The result is compelling, likable, and authentic. Dr. Frank has been steadily and calming in their messaging as well. They have decided to highlight their employees. Each week there's a different employee and how they're coping, what Dr. Frank wine they're drinking, and what they're serving it with. It's reminding their customers that we're all in this together and we're going to be okay. So continuing down our grid, let's look at the comfortably well off. Now remember, these guys are relatively unaffected and their consumption patterns haven't changed that much, but there are two things you need to emphasize with this group. One, justify the quality, awards, or value of purchasing your product. And two, keep it subtle. What has changed dramatically for this group is emotional guilt. Wine is a luxury product. If you have a $150 Napa cab, it's not that your audience can't buy it. It's that they feel awkward about buying it when 60,000 people have died. To this group, the discount is not the point. It might help them justify a short-term purchase, but it's not going to help them deal with the current situation or feel good about you as a brand. The best example that I've seen of this to date is a recent boating clothing email I got. Now, this is an expensive brand. You know, these clothes aren't cheap, but the top says, "It's hard to know what to say right now. It might seem highly inappropriate to show you clothes for which you currently have no need. But, well, we've already made them, and it was too late to stop. I really hope they cheer you up, which is frankly what we all need." Okay, by the time I read that header, I was like totally on their side and thinking, yeah, they did already make these, and they're probably sitting in a warehouse, and I'm probably saving somebody's job by buying these pants. So it totally got me on their side and made me feel better. I also really liked, again, Domaine Serene. They have a program called Pour It Forward. And it's a program that combines the frustration we all feel about not being able to see our friends and family with our desire to help contribute, and we want to be part of a group. So they created these care packages of wines that you send to somebody, and depending on what wines you choose and how many packages you send, Domaine Serene will gather up everybody's packages and give a donation to one of 5 charities. It's a win-win all the way around. Now we're down at the bottom of the chart and we're looking at the Live for Today segment. Like the Comfortably Well Off group, this group carries on as usual, but the reasoning is quite different. These guys are typically younger, think millennials. They have less responsibility. They identify and purchase things due to the experience rather than the value. So the best advice on messaging to this group is just give them continual reasons to purchase, new ideas with your products, and purchase options. These are the people that are using Instacart and Drizzly right now online. One thing this group does like is a higher purpose. I really liked this email from Sokol Blosser selling their wine club at this time by including sustainable gifts with their club shipments. Our instant reaction is always to lower our prices or take costs down to increase value, and we often forget that you can add things to the existing price to increase value as well. And I'm going to end on the best example of added value I've seen yet from Sarloos and Sons Vineyard. Not only do you get yummy, yummy cupcakes with your wine, but their website shows this very simple and adorable video with their child about the anticipation of opening this cool care package.
Wine and cupcakes are here, Dad.
Let's see what Keith sent us. What are you hoping for, Meadow?
I'm hoping that they're chocolate cupcakes. Yum.
You want chocolate cupcakes?
Yeah. Give me some chocolate cupcakes, please. Hey, what's everything? Oh.
Cupcakes. Right there.
All right, a little bit of wine.
That's for mommy, so she's nice to you.
And some cupcakes. Look, Meadow.
There's chocolate and vanilla.
Look at that one.
Chocolate and vanilla.
So wrapping up, there are 4 takeaways from this talk. Number one, support your brand by staying true to yourself. Look at your current plans through the lens of, would I do this if we weren't in a crisis? The worst thing companies can do in a crisis is alter their brand's fundamental proposition. This may confuse and alienate your loyal customers. You might attract some new customers in the near term, but you're going to find yourself in a weaker position when the crisis is over. Your brand can acknowledge the new world, but fundamentally should remain unwavering. Go digital. The Harvard Business Review article reported during the recession of 2008, marketers spent 14% more on online ads than they did over the same time frame in 2007. Even before most of us were asked to shelter in place, our purchasing behavior has shifted significantly to digital platforms, driven by technology advances, access, and convenience. For marketers, the shift allows us to surgically target, show results, and pivot quickly. Digital advertising is targeted and relatively cheap, its performance is easily measured, and it's where our customers live. For WineGlass Marketing, both our D2C and B2B clients are seeing great returns on social media ads during the pandemic. My advice to all my clients, spend as much as you can afford right now while you have a captive audience online. Third point is all businesses are going to increasingly compete on price. And you may think that discounting is an opposition of keeping your brand, but I didn't say don't offer discounts. I said don't discount outside of what your brand would normally do. Also, resist pressure to increase the frequency of temporary discounts beyond what you would normally do. I have 4 tips here when offering discounts. 1, research shows the discounts that require little effort and immediate benefit are more effective than a delayed value or a buy more promotion. So look for the quick benefits, keep it easy, and keep the barriers low. Make sure you sign up for a lot of mailing lists and carefully monitor customers' perceptions of normal price levels. Excessive promotions will lead customers to revise their expectations of prices. This threatens profitability and the recovery. As an industry, please people, we all need to watch over ourselves and not create a new normal that we cannot sustain. In addition to offering temporary price promotions or list price changes, improve your perceived affordability by reducing thresholds for volume-based deals, club benefits, or allocation discounts. Expand your loyalty programs to reward not just big-time spenders, but also people who purchase small amounts frequently. And it may be tempting to beg for sales or whine about your situation, but your customers are dealing with their own stuff. So keep the messaging positive and make it about them, not you. Last but not least, in a stressful and uncertain times, consumers of all segments see familiar, trusted brands and their products as safe and comforting. Reassuring messages that reinforce your brand's humanity and create an emotional connection will demonstrate empathy and keep your customers loyal. The Harvard Business Review article concluded after 40 years of research that brands that came out on the other side of economic crises are stronger. The discipline around marketing strategy and research that we developed during this time and our ability to respond to changes in demand are going to continue to serve us when the economy recovers. We should prepare now, though, for possible long-term shifts in consumer values and attitudes and a definite shift in where and how they shop. So that is it for me. I wanted to leave my email up here and let you know I'll be happy to send this to anybody who wants to email me. You can also go to wineglassmarketing.com and sign up for our mailing list online. We're constantly sending out research studies and information. And thank you very much for your time. Please stay strong in all of this and stay safe.
Susan, thank you. That was great.
I miss those ads.
That was so great. The you know what was cool about the Budweiser ad was it was funny, but it was sensitive, right? And I thought that was very cool. And I have not seen a winery. I mean, I've seen a lot of sensitivity communications going on out there, but I haven't seen anything where they injected some humor into it. And maybe you have, but I thought that was fantastic.
I think that's what we're going to start to see, is people are kind of getting tired of the overly emotional, and the article I was reading in Adweek just yesterday was talking about all the new humor ads that are going to come out.
Yeah.
So I would encourage everybody to explore, with humor, especially on social media, maybe when it's a little less permanent than sending out an email or something.
Right. No, it was just cool because it was, like I said, they struck a perfect balance between, it was light, but it was effective, and I thought that was very cool. We had some people who commented about the second video where you had the kid and the cupcakes and the wine. And I think for some people that made them a little bit uncomfortable because it was like, I remember the first time I saw it, I go, that's kind of like a little bit different. You don't usually see the kids involved.
I love the comment. The mama goes, "That's so mommy's nice to you."
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great. Hey, quick bit of housekeeping that I have. Well, let me ask you one quick question. You're talking about discounting and being careful about that. And it's tough because when everyone's discounting, you feel like you need to go along with the program. But if you have a choice or a recommendation, free shipping versus a discount, what do you tell people?
I think it depends on your group. As I suggested, if you have an essential brand, something that people just buy and consume, a discount's always great.
Right.
I would love my KJ, or I put up Josh as an example. If the grocery store is having a sale on that, something that I'm going to get as a treat, I would want to see comp shipping, because I would probably pull the trigger for it anyway. But you're just kind of making it like the one-click buy.
Easy.
It's so easy. Yeah.
Right on. I love the way that you segmented the audience. I imagine that for a lot of the wineries, and you kind of referenced that, would be, more of those two middle groups, right? Where they, they're not they're not, slamming on the brakes. They're still doing some purchasing.
Mm-hmm.
They're being a little bit careful about it. But it made me think, like, do we start at the winery side, start tagging or trying to put our customers into a box, knowing that, you can't have the same communication be effective with everyone? Is that an exercise that's worth attempting?
It's an interesting thought. I don't know that these segments should drive all of your marketing all the time.
Right.
I'm saying that in times of, these are really weird times right now, and we've never seen anything like this, which is why I went researching and, looking for past benchmarks. We need to connect with people, and it's really hard to do that when our world is upside down. So I think now it's valuable to do that. In October, November, December, I don't know what's going to happen, so it's hard to say. But right now, looking at emotions and psychological triggers, or our rational minds aren't, we're trying to get toilet paper. Like, that's where our rational mind is, wine, and even some of these business, the B2B products, it's hard to segment those two. Is like, they're going to need to buy corks. They're going to need to buy screw caps, or, people are going to need to bottle.
Yeah.
But do you discount things? Do you make it easier for them? Do you, it really kind of depends on how critical your whatever your widget is you're selling.
Yeah, we're finding our conversations with the industry vendors out there is, number one, stay aggressive. Make sure that you do not disappear. Make sure that you are communicating the fact that you will be there if there's a problem. That the support piece of that segment of business isn't going to disappear. And for some of them, where as these different trade shows and conferences are being canceled, maybe some of that money that you had allocated for travel and hotel and
Mm-hmm.
trade shows, et cetera, shift that money into your digital presence, where it's targeted and measurable, but stay aggressive, stay out there, and make sure that people know that you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I would heartily agree with that. I think that the first reaction a lot of our clients had was, oh, we're just going to shut down, and ride this out. And it's, what was that, 8 weeks ago that we've been here? So that's not a strategy.
Yeah.
I also would agree. We have been getting a lot of phone calls from people with, okay, what do we do with our trade show budget? And we were talking yesterday that an importer is talking to us because they were like, well, I could spend $30,000 on a one-page black and white ad in Wine Spectator,
Right.
or what could that get me online? You
Yeah.
know, and could I target that to my regions? Like I'm trying to get Costco and Tampa. Can you do, Google ad buys in Tampa? And we're like, so you can be much more surgical and make your dollars, spend your dollars smarter now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, a little bit of housekeeping because we're going to wrap things up here. So I know that the presentation will be available on video. I'm going to ask Nick. Nick's kind of the voice in the sky. So Nick, everyone will be able to get the video of the presentation. And then what about the PowerPoint? We can make that available to them as well. Or I guess, Susan, that's a question for you.
Yeah. I've made it into a PDF. It's not going to come out of this platform, but I can give it to you to send out.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have full access to the webinar online. They can replay and watch there. I think we'll also make the video available, but that's great to hear about the slide deck as well, Susan. We've had a lot of people asking about that in the chat.
Yep. Thank you, Nick. Susan, thank you so much. You were awesome. I'm looking forward to doing this again with you soon. And we have other things to talk about. So thank you for your time. And for all of those folks out there in attendance, thank you so much for going through our first webinar with us. And it was a lot of fun, and we'll be doing this again soon. Take care, everyone.